Hello, BookTube. This is your friendly book reviewer again, and I am back to review the Claw Conciliator. Although, as you can see, this is not the same as the images from the thumbnail because I'm reading with the two-book omnibus. So, a few weeks ago, I reviewed the first part of this series, Book of the New Sun, which was called Shadow of the Torturer, and now I'm reading the second book in this collection, Claw of the Conciliator. And the second book was published in 1981, very soon after the first one. And as I mentioned in a previous review, I thought that the last book didn't have a very strong conclusion, and so left me hungry for more because I figured like the whole series was written as a single book. However, I was surprised to find that the second book actually begins a short time after the events of the first one, rather than right afterwards. So I was a little disappointed, but I think this makes the lack of a strong conclusion in the first one a bit more apparent. But anyways, for this book itself, I thought that it improved on some aspects of the first book, but actually suffered from some more faults. I'm going to get into those. So first of all, the narrative is definitely a lot faster moving. So we see Severian travel around the world much more, and it feels less like a one-man show. Because there are several characters, and even a very interesting minor character that I hope appears later, that are much better developed and are just as interesting as Severian is. So I like that as well. I'm definitely a fan of having strong supporting characters. Also, this book was definitely much more open about the world of Earth. I actually was listening to audiobook for the first time, and so sometimes it's called, I listened to audiobook and read the book. Sometimes it's called Earth, well in my head I'm calling it Earth, but then the audiobook pronounces it Earth. But I'll just go for Earth. So anyway, this book is much more open about Earth being our Earth from the future, and well the far future, and because they actually do reference some things from our time. I mean, it's not apparent exactly how it came to be the way it is, but there are several things that the reader can connect the dots and realize what it is there. Although I think in the first book there might have been a little bit more, this one's definitely much more open about that. And the prose writing continues to be excellent and very descriptive, and the world building, as was in the first book, is, well, expanded a bit more, but it's definitely very much show, not tell. They don't really explain anything in retrospect. And what I thought was really interesting was that maybe this is even just this particular edition of the book, but at the end of the Claw of the Conciliator, there was a section written by Gene Wolfe in which he actually tries to go over the terminology used. However, he actually writes it as if he actually doesn't know what Severian was thinking, as if somehow the book wasn't written by him and he's just translating it somehow, even though he's in the past. I thought it was a very interesting section. He definitely wants to promote the whole cryptic aspect of the book. Also, this is unrelated to the review itself, but it actually has my favorite cover art of all four books, so I don't have it here because this is just the omnibus version with the cover of the first book. But as you can see on the thumbnail, I thought it was very interesting. It's a very interesting scene. I think it's definitely, well, I looked over as far, it actually does relate to the event in the book, once it is. I just really like the art. It's a very strong, striking image. I like that the best out of the four covers I've seen for the books. Anyway, one of my main gripes is the female characters are actually written even worse this time, because they really only exist to give Severian love interest and have no important functions in the story, and I'm continuously surprised by how Gene Wolfe, who is in real life is a very strong practicing Catholic, and he tried to make the story have Christian themes because, like Severian is supposed to be based off of Jesus Christ, which is an interesting characterization. I mean, there's a few subtle things you can kind of see. Actually, this book, on the other hand, actually definitely increased the Jesus imagery by a lot. I can understand how he's definitely related, like a lot more. If it wasn't obvious before, which it kind of wasn't, I don't think it definitely is this time. But I find it bizarre that a character who's based off Jesus should be so like open to having these sexual encounters with women and describing women very sexually. It just seems really bizarre to me. And I don't get why. It's not necessary in any sense. And I don't even think it would fit the character if that's what he's going for. But yeah, it's there, and I don't like it. It's not... It reminds me of the King Killer Chronicle had that big problem with women being betrayed in the very unflattering, well, almost too flattering light, because they just weren't they were basically just put on a pedestal for Quoth, but they really just served secondary roles in supporting him. This book has a similar problem. The women actually don't have any role in the plot, and they're just there, so they're love interest. Again, there was also no humor in this book. I remember one scene in the first book that was clearly written to be humorous, but just that one scene was brief. This book has absolutely none. And I'm not a fan of that, actually. I mean, I can expect a serious book, but I think, as I said before, I much prefer it. I think that a major work of art should have tragedy and comedy. I do think, if you're just comedy and no tragedy, then I don't think it's not the full experience for me. And the opposite is true, just the same. If you're tragedy without comedy, I don't think it's full experience. This one is, I wouldn't call it a tragedy per se, but it's written in a very serious, dry tone, What makes it worse, though, is that the characters don't really feel very human. Well, maybe some of them do, but the characters I don't think feel very human. And Severian doesn't either. They don't really have very strong emotions. They don't act in very sympathetic ways. It's difficult to actually root for anyone in particular. The world is still very interesting, but if the characters don't feel very human, then it's just disappointing in that regard. However, I am very impressed by what seems to me to be these several sort of large-scale plots that are going on at the same time as the main plot. And I realize that they're actually probably more important than the main plot. So the main, I won't spoil too much, but the main plot, is kind of obvious, Severian's revolution against the Autarch. But the other side plot is actually there's a coming apocalypse, and there's these apocalyptic forces that, end the world. And that's a side plot because, it actually relates to the Jesus imagery is that if Severian is the chosen one, then it's probably going to be up to him to stop this or to find a new sun for humanity, which is why it's called the Book of the New Sun. Let me think here. So yeah, overall, I would rate this book. It's I think it's I still give it 5 stars, but for me, it improved on something from the last book, but it actually suffered from some worse flaws. And reading it from the audiobooks was kind of a different experience for me. I might even like the first one more if I read it from an audiobook. I'm not entirely sure, but it's actually the first time I listened to an audiobook. I didn't read the whole thing. Actually, I read most of it as print. But what happened was, so I got the audiobook for it, and whenever I finished a chapter, I might listen to another chapter while I was driving. And that was an experience. I had to reread parts of it, though, and I missed it. But in the future, I guess I might read more audiobooks. If I can afford Audible. These Audible's kind of expensive, just using the free trial. 30-day free trial. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. I should also say I probably won't be reading more of the Book of the New Sun for a long time, because I only have the first 2 books on my actual shelf. As you can see here, don't have any other Book of the New Sun books. And I've got a lot of books on my shelf I need to get through in order to, before I can buy any more books. Well, I could buy the next 2, but I really want to get through the books I already have on my shelf and want to read first. This means I'm probably going to have to reread these books. In fact, I might even possibly at some point do another review of these 2 books if I reread them, or even if I just read a plot or whatever, because I'm going to have to do that in order. These are probably a significant amount of time before I can get back to them. In any event, I'm not a big fan of the Book of the New Sun, but I can see why people are interested in it. I've heard some people say that it's not as good, like it's a pale imitation of the Tales of the Dying Earth. It's definitely based on the Tales of the Dying Earth, just little bits of it, but it's definitely a work very much in and of itself. It's a completely different thing from Tales of the Dying Earth. So I give this one 3 out of 5 stars, improved from the last one in some ways, got worse in other ways. And but just so you guys know, the next book I'm going to be reviewing, and I'm reading right now, about halfway through it. It's an alternate history book by Harry Turtledove. He's a popular alternate history writer. It's called Rule Britannia, and it's about a world in which the Spanish Armada defeats the English Armada and conquers England. And I'm actually quite liking it so far, but I'll tell you guys my full thoughts are on it when I finish it, which will probably be by the end of the week. So anyway, bye guys, thanks for watching. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe.